nice, so nice.
I'm Alex Sanchez from the island of Croix. I am the owner of Renaissance Design, an architectural and interior design firm in Washington, D.C. The weird thing is that from a young age, like all I knew was architecture and design because I started drawing, I think, before I knew how to write. And so, like for field trips, my father used to take me through all different parts of the island, take me through Croix, take me through the North Shore, just to show me different houses. I used to like looking at the architecture and how everything was done. And then when he wasn't doing that, he took me to the art supply store to give me popsicle sticks so I could build houses on my own at home. And so he always just nurtured my talent or my desire to always design homes and design buildings. Grew up in Mon Bijou, spent a lot of time, my whole life there, until I moved away and went to the States for college. I had a tennis coach, Bernard, who was an architect by trade. And so I just did it for fun. I never thought it would be, I knew I was gonna be an architect at some point in my life, but then he was an architectural engineer, and so he told me that he thought that was the best path for me. Since I was good at math, I'm always gonna be an architect anyway. I should get the engineering background. So I went to actually the same school he went to, which is North Carolina A&T. He pushed me to go that direction, and from there I just followed his lead. Always followed my instincts. I guess that's always been a thing with me. I've always followed my instincts, and that's just what it was drawing me toward. So even after college, I worked in construction for 2 years. Hated working for corporate America, couldn't stand it. So I ended up just leaving because I can't be any place where I don't feel driven or I don't feel like I can really expand and be myself. I was assistant project manager for Croix Construction, which is like the largest construction company in the Mid-Atlantic in the US. So I mean, I think I got promoted 3 times in my first year. Like, I was doing well, but it's just, sitting at a desk and not having a creative outlet it wasn't me. But when I left, I literally spent 2 years kind of trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. Strangely enough, like when there was like $0 left, there was absolutely nothing left. I just thought about what I always loved doing, and I realized that since I was 5, I always loved design. I've always loved homes. I've always loved creating new designs for homes. So I just went back to what my first love was, and then from there it was just like, nose to the grind and just going for it. So after I explored and just like enjoyed my freedom from being stuck in that place, that's when I started my business 2 years later. The catalyst was really necessity. I worked for someone else and it was good, but I realized I could do this stuff for myself. It was pointless for me not to do it for myself. So I decided I just wouldn't give it a try. And without any other source of income or any kind of, any additional funds coming in, I had to be successful at it too. Like that wasn't even a question. Otherwise, I wouldn't eat. So I just started working and started working. Started a painting company first, like actually painting interior walls. And as I would do a job, I would make a suggestion in other parts of the house, And then eventually one of my clients asked for more suggestions, and I gave them some suggestions like, well, I could do that for you. Brought in some stuff, photograph it, now I have a start of a portfolio. Got a recommendation, did it for someone else, did a little bit more, got a photo, another added to my portfolio. And it grew like that over the next year or so. So a lot of my first projects were like minimal profit or no profit at all, pretty much free, just so I can get the experience and I can get the work out there, so I can show that I do something. I think getting on Design Star is going back to just being stubborn again. I was looking at the show the year before, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be on that show next year. I just kind of said it, but as I said it, it kind of felt true for me. So I was like, okay, well, I think I could actually do that. So I just started working on my portfolio. That's back in the time where I was just doing a lot of jobs for free and just getting my portfolio together. I decided to start practicing talking on camera. I decided to just reach out. And so after people at HGTV saw my portfolio, they interviewed me. And then they, waited for me to have more work, and they saw more of my portfolio. Then they interviewed me. Then they interviewed me, and then they interviewed me. And then, as my work grew and my ability to speak with people grew, then they tagged me to be on the show, And it just went from there. It was just from that initial sit down and thinking, I want to be on this show next year, and then working toward that goal. I've become known, my core style is actually doing contemporary bachelor places. So I focus on doing homes for, up and coming men who don't have time to do their spaces. They're too busy building their careers, and just kind of like incorporating the overall style into their space. So very modern, very clean, but there's always like an organic element that comes from, from being back home, is bringing in more natural ingredients, but in a very minimal way to keep it like really sleek and really sexy. My company is Renaissance Design. It's usually about 2-person firm. It's usually me and an assistant, and then I have a lot of people who contract for me, who work with me. And I like to keep it small. What we focus on is just being able to create designs that are bespoke, that kind of create a feeling more so than just a look. And for me, that it had to ring true. So I did a lot of other things. Like I tried a lot of different types of projects, but then what I loved doing was doing the bachelor spaces and doing intimate homes. And so I kind of like pushed my business in that direction and kept it going that way. And so far my biggest market is in DC. DC, they know my name. It feels good because when I walk around DC, at least 2 days out of the week, if I'm walking around DC, someone will stop me and ask me, aren't you a designer in DC? Don't you do homes? And that's been great. Another big part of my business is that I also do renovations of townhouses, especially ones in more development challenged areas. And that has been good because I've been able to see the neighborhoods change in different areas. So one house I did, I had a lot of the different neighbors asking me, what did you use for that? How did you do that? And they were grateful because the house I did was such an eyesore to the neighborhood. And then I've had my contractors go out and work on their houses and do stuff for them. So that's been a great part of the business. I think the piece of me, or the piece of Mon Bijou and the piece of Saint Croix that comes in is just the organic nature. So things aren't as structured as they would be for most other stateside designers. So even for like this project, I was like, we need to have a more natural element. So I would bring in an entire wall of wood just to be able to bring in that natural feel, because I understand of the necessity to have a life in a space outside of the people who live there. Like the space itself has to have a life. And just I think my eye for color, because and if in Mon Bijou, if you have a white house, you stand out because ain't nothing else white. Everybody have some kind of color someplace. And so for me, I always have to incorporate color into my design. The difference is, it's never my predominant thing. It's always going to be my accent. It's always going to be my piece de resistance because I want it to be special. So right now, I'm actually in New York, getting my master's of architecture at Parsons. There's so much in the future that is just overwhelming. My main goal, or what's going to be my thesis in school, is actually designing how typical homes in St. Croix are built. So I'm trying to design houses for the average citizen of the Virgin Islands. And just trying to find a way to take advantage of all the resources that we have as far as sunlight and wind, so that it maximizes the efficiency of the house, but also makes it more aesthetic instead of just a concrete blocks with like holes for windows and doors, I'm also working on a new style of renovations for townhouses in DC. So I've been talking to a few partners to start purchasing properties and start just having my way with the design, really just going crazy with it. And it feels good, because I love St. Croix. Anyone who knows me knows I love St. Croix so much. I love the VI, and so when I go back twice a year, and I just like revel in it. So the fact that I could give back in any kind of way, it always feels good.